Hey there, Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 1696 of What's She Up To Now, documenting the business journey primarily as I transitioned originally in 2017 from owning my own businesses with my ex-husband, and as well as working over a quarter century in corporate America. So almost 50 years of experience. I know I am definitely getting up there in years and experience. 47, 48 years of business ownership. Owned my first business when I was 13. And after my divorce, I decided I wanted to do something totally different. Divested myself and my ex-husband, separated out all of our assets together, and was in a position to say, okay, well, what do I want to do now? What have I always been curious about? What I want to do now? And I'd always been curious about the online world, so I hopped online and started exploring and learning things. Some good, some bad, some ugly. Some worked out really well. Some were a nightmare, and I wish I had never gone down that road. But all in all, still here, still going strong, and sharing what I've learned, some of the lessons I've learned along the way, so that, and actually anything you ask, I will answer, because I want to make sure that I'm an open book and I share what has worked for me and what hasn't. And just because it hasn't worked for me doesn't mean it won't work for you, and doesn't mean it hasn't worked for a lot of other people. It just means it goes against who I am and how I want to show up in the world. So every day I share an idiom. This month, we're focusing on communication-related idioms in my Supersize Your Business group. And in that group, we talk about an idiom. What does it mean? Where does it come from? And how could we apply it to building and growing and supersizing our business? Today's was to touch base. Just like so many others with the word base in it, it comes from American baseball. It became popular in about the 1930s, probably used before that. But we all know that to touch base means to follow up, to check in with somebody, to find out what's going on. So I shared 15 plus different ways to touch base with someone without saying in your email, hey, I'm just touching base, or I just wanted to touch base. Because why? It's overused. People get sick of hearing the same thing over and over again. They know if you're contacting them usually for a reason, or to ask a question, or for help, etc. And it's usually not just to touch base. Although maybe it is just to check in on them. My sister, I am from a family of all girls, and I have my one sister calls me almost every day just to check in on me and touch base, which I totally appreciate. And I think that's important. We call to touch base with our family and our relatives and our friends on a periodic basis, unless we don't get along with them, and then we only see them for the mandatory requirements, funerals, weddings, holidays, etc. So I shared those different ways to touch base. I created a whole list. I got a whole list from my phone. I built on a list from the internet, and then I added things of my own. And I would say if I look at this list, I've probably done almost all of them in my many years in business. I probably used them all, sometimes intentionally, sometimes inadvertently, with respect to growing and building and supersizing my business. So our topic today for the annual challenge, the BU 365-day challenge, because we're doing one thing every day that improves us, focusing on communication this month, was awareness. And that brings up emotional awareness, self-awareness, communication awareness. Communication awareness is, are we aware, and it's a lot like intention, are we aware of the words and the symbols and the signs and the pictures and the graphics and the medium that we use, our nonverbals included, our gestures, as we communicate a message? And our whole purpose, it's the process of picking and choosing those things are we aware of doing that as we seek to have people understand what it is that we're trying to communicate? And I would say, I think I mentioned this with intention, the vast majority of us, the vast majority of our communications, we do not do that intentionally. We don't, as human beings, think about and specifically choose the symbols and the signs and the gestures and the words that we're going to use, unless, of course, we're giving a business presentation, or we're giving a speech, or we're doing public speaking. Then, yes, the majority of people that do those and perform those types of communication plan out, think out, intend every word, every phrase, every reaction from the audience. And then they practice and practice like a comedian. They practice over and over and over again, and they test out different ways of presenting information to see what gets the best result. In case of comedians, what gets the most laughs, what gets the biggest reaction. Same is true with public speakers. They present their material, or business people that are doing a sales presentation, present their material in a way that will get the response and the reaction that they want. They want people to buy their products and services, right? I do the same thing when I'm on a sales call. So I talked about that and different ways of communicating. And our exercise for that today is our Lifeline exercise, where we look at the main events in our life and what was our communication like during that time period or during that event. I found, and I just thought about a couple of events this morning, that when times are super challenging or stressful, I tend to shut the heck up and go inside to look for solutions and answers. Meaning, I'm not communicating with things and people and places outside of me very much during those challenging times. Same is true when and I guess this would be considered a challenging time, when I have a health event or a health challenge. I pretty much am not talking to anybody. I'm focusing on what needs to happen for me to get healthy again, to be okay. And I don't really talk to people about that, because I feel if I talk to people about things that are not working out, I create more of those things in my life. Is that true? It seems to be true for me, may or may not be true for you. So we're doing the Lifeline exercise with respect to communication and looking for awareness and learnings about ourselves in terms of how do we normally, or how in the past have we behaved with respect to communication, or how have we acted or not acted, how have we increased or decreased our communication during these different events in our life, and do we see if that, and do we believe that that's had an impact on how those events resolve themselves or not. So I love the Lifeline exercise. I think it's one of the best, most powerful exercises we can ever do. And I found this year that by breaking it down by the different areas and aspects of my life, it's even more powerful because I am becoming more self-aware. Yeah, when I say these words or act this way or treat my kids this way, this is the reaction I get. Is that the reaction I want? No, it's the opposite of the reaction I want. So maybe I need to change the way I'm saying things and the words I'm using and the tone of voice and things to get a different reaction, a different response. So, any questions, communication-related questions, supersizing, growing your business questions, hit me up today. Otherwise, I got stuff to do, and I'm going to go do it. I imagine you do too. Have an awesome day. I'll be with you tomorrow.